Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about creating your own television program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
Hello, and welcome to our show, The American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. Our co-host today is Marilyn Renbarger. Marilyn is, excuse my voice. Marilyn is setting in today for Carl, a father. He had surgery recently, and we wish him well and a speedy recovery. Marilyn and her husband Richard are both members of the Korean War Veterans Association. Thanks for joining us today, helping us out.
I'm happy to be here, and I want to give a shout out to Carl to hurry back, Carl. We miss you, and get well soon.
That's right. Our guest today is Leslie Haines. Leslie is the founder and executive director of the Lutheran Military Veterans and Family Ministries. Welcome to the show, Leslie.
Well, thank you, Dale, for having me and giving us this opportunity to discuss some very important veterans issues.
Oh, glad to do it.
Great.
Glad to do it. So, tell us what it's all about.
One of the issues today, I think one of the disconnects with society and veterans care is down to the fact that the majority of civilians in this country have not ever served in uniform. In fact, we are losing our last two World War II veterans out of the Senate and Congress this year. And I think when you don't understand and you haven't maybe worn the boots or the uniforms and served the country, your appreciation for the unique challenges are lessened. So our ministry was planted in 2007 officially to address some unique challenges that weren't being addressed by the government, which is unable to, or the church, any church. We have 2.6 million veterans, more than 2.6 million veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Mm-hmm. And while that number doesn't seem large in comparison with other wars, we have to remember that this is an all-volunteer military, and that we had never contemplated even bringing the draft back. It's just in our society, it's not going to happen. So consequently, what has happened is that many of these troops have been deployed and redeployed numerous times. Oftentimes people will say, well, what's wrong with our veterans today? What's, as though there was a problem, or my dad never talked about it. Well, my grandfather never talked about it either. But during that time, he and other men and women weren't encouraged to talk about it. Talking about the pain of combat, the pains that oftentimes occur during service, whether it's combat related or not, was discouraged. As the Vietnam War ended, we began to hear more and more about what was called originally Vietnam Syndrome, and it's evolved now to what the American Psychiatric Association has called post-traumatic stress disorder. However, the problem with that is it's what is called PTSD. It really isn't a disorder. It's more of an injury that occurs. And it's an injury that involves breaking a person's trust. the things, the norms that we expect from our society, the values we were raised with that are particularly nowadays and contradict severely the enemies we're fighting. As with Vietnam, many of the atrocities that our veterans felt came about as a result of the lack of exposure to that sort of way of life. We had guerrilla warfare and means that was quite a bit different. The Vietnam veterans got the short sheet of veterans care when it came to the emotional issues. But yet, because of that, and because of the awareness society has had, we are better in place now to work with our veterans coming home since Iraq and Afghanistan, and we have a greater appreciation and understanding. Also, in our society today, men and women, young men and women, are given more freedom to discuss troubling events and their conditions.
Yeah. This is something that's always been PTSD.
Yes.
We just didn't recognize it.
And we called it different things.
Yeah.
One of the things that during World War II, when troops were coming home, they were on ships. They didn't come home within the same 24 hours of leaving a war zone. They had weeks on those ships to decompress without the stresses and emotional strains of coming home to their families. The needs of veterans that have been in combat or have left war zones are unique and challenging and not well understood by even the families. Oftentimes people think, well, let's just throw a great big party. But I can tell you from experience that I didn't want a big party. I wanted to decompress. I wanted some time alone. I wanted time to see where I fit back in society.
Yeah. I'd like to make this point to the viewers that Leslie was a major in the military police. She don't want to talk about herself, but she was wounded in Iraq. She herself has PTSD. She served in Guantanamo, so she knows what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm. And I was injured in Iraq. I wasn't wounded from enemy action, but my injuries have affected a lot of neurological functions.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of meeting Leslie before, and it's another pleasure for me to meet you. And I'm very proud of your service, and I think you should be too.
I guess I knew since the age of 3 that when I announced to my family that I was going to be a soldier, and realized that was 1963, wasn't a common vocational aspiration for little girls at that time.
No, not for me either.
But I always knew that I wanted to serve, and I started my service enlisted, and after 4 years in aviation Huey crew chief, I went on to OCS. It's an honor to serve. It's always, I believe it's my first vocation that God gave me. And if I hadn't served the places I've served, done the things that I've done, I wouldn't have the appreciation that I think helps us in our ministry to other veterans. We wouldn't be able to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have a mutual friend, Pastor Jim Cotter.
Yes?
Yes, he's a delightful man. We just really think the world of him.
Yes, he's a wonderful man.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you meet her?
I met her at a church service. Well, actually, it was a funeral service.
Oh.
And she sat at our table. And I was fortunate enough to meet her at that time.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, how do veterans, do they seek you out?
We receive our veterans through referrals, but veterans are not the only people that we receive. I've gotten referrals from VA clinicians. We've gotten referrals from churches where we've spoken. Our information has been out there for 7 years, and we've grown as a ministry. Our referrals come from any number of places. Oftentimes, I have a business card that has a little soldier attached to it, so people don't just stick it in their pocket and let it get crumpled. That it will oftentimes be a couple of years since that person has had any reason to call, and they'll call and say, I saw you at a presentation and I have that card that you said not to take the Army man off of because it's not for the grandchildren, but it's so you don't lose the card. And I have a question, or I have an issue with a son or daughter, grandchild, some relative, a friend, and that's oftentimes where we get our referrals too. Also, the people that we've served also refer people to us as well.
And do they come to you, or do you help them for as long as it takes?
For as long as it takes. And I think I need to define how we define veteran. Unlike the VA, which has certain regulations about and policies about who they will serve, that is, of those members of that have ever served in the military, there are time restrictions and requirements that they must meet, and there are also discharge requirements that they must meet. They have to have a discharge that, they can't have a dishonorable discharge. They generally can't have a discharge that is under less than honorable conditions. We are a ministry, and I know that there have been very good soldiers that have received a bad piece of paper that results in the denial of services. But more than that, I think it's important to remember that of all the people that probably need the services we offer, it will be those people that had problems in service. And to deny them would be a poor reflection on our ministry and what we believe Christ did for us.
How would someone contact you if they need your services?
Well, our phone number, they can call 260-755-2239, and they can call, make an appointment. We have never in the 7 years in ministry turned anybody away. We consider a person a veteran if they have served one or more days in the military. Doesn't matter if they didn't get through basic training, but before they served in the military, just before, they all raised their right hand and swore to protect and defend this country against all enemies, foreign and now particularly domestic. So regardless of their character of service, we serve them. So contacting us, we will arrange an appointment, and oftentimes that first appointment can take over 2 hours. It takes a while to get to know each other, but the ability to get to bond with or click with another veteran is made easier by the fact that we are veterans. We also serve not just the veteran, but their families. And as of 2013, we began serving what we call our nation's invisible military contractors. We have lost more military contractors in Iraq and Afghanistan to combat than we have U.S. troops. They are considered private contractors. They work for a contracting company. But unless their prior military service has given them access to VA care, they receive nothing when they get back. Yet they have the same needs. Their families have the same needs. So we serve their families as well. And since beginning this ministry in 2007, none of our veterans none of these people that we consider within our mission area have been denied.
Would you repeat that number one more time?
Sure. Our phone number is 260-755-2239. In addition to that, I think it's important to know that we don't charge our veterans for any of the services we provide. We have a wide range of services that we provide our veterans and contractors and their family members. Such as we brought along our therapy dog, Holly. We instituted this program and started also in the same year that we started serving contractors, working with a local dog trainer directly, and veterans who are in need of an emotional therapy dog. The VA will provide a dog in certain instances if you have a physical disability. They have not deemed it necessary to provide veterans with therapy animals to help them with their spiritual, emotional needs. They say that there's not enough evidence. Congress had to mandate to them that they actually conduct testing on this, and we all know that animals provide a great amount of comfort. And one of those issues is that when a veteran has PTSD, they are almost always going to have another condition of depression. It's too easy to sit at home if you're depressed and not get out than to go out.
Yeah.
And oftentimes if I have a veteran with depression, I'll ask them, what time of day is it that you know that if you're not out of the house, you're not going anywhere? With a therapy dog such as Holly, and Holly will typically, if I'm typing, nudge my arm up about every hour because she wants to go out. Yeah. We have our veterans commit to being with that service dog at all times. And that means when that dog needs to go out to the bathroom and there's 3 feet of snow there, the veteran goes out with that dog. Mm-hmm. They are bonded like that. Yeah. And so we started helping veterans connect with our dog trainer and get the training needed to provide them with something that's not being provided otherwise.
Maybe we're getting into something that was going to talk about the other next show. Sorry.
Well, you're providing a wonderful service, and I commend you and your staff and the dog. Right. I've seen her. She's beautiful.
Well, you'll get to meet her. The viewers will get to see her on the second half of this show. It is the reason this ministry was planted was, in fact, because of my own experiences and the care that, had I not received it, I most likely wouldn't be here today. And I felt that very deeply, and knew while I was in seminary that this is what God's vocational plan was for me.
Yeah. Now, where are you located?
We're located at 3480 Stellhorn Road. And if you know where the Speedway station is that connects with Hobson and Stellhorn,
sure.
There are office complexes that are behind that, College Park office complexes, and we're in there. Oh. We're on a corner of some of those offices, and we're probably, I think it's safe to say, the only one with a corn cob hanging off of our little tree. So we feed the birds and feed the squirrels.
Yeah. You ever get any walk-ins?
I have had walk-ins. It's not typical, though.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, it could be a matter of where I do business, the convenience store that I go to, and finding out that Joe, who I see regularly, is a veteran, and he's having some difficulties getting his benefits. We have helped the Joes and the Janes get their benefits when they oftentimes lose hope in being able, after so many denials, to get that. We've also recently, I think one of the most thrilling helps that we have given is to an 80-year-old widow who was told she wasn't due any services, even though her husband had retired from the military. Yeah. And we were able to get her benefits, and that's after she had been told by her VA officer that she wasn't qualified. And so it's just really heartwarming to see, that you've had a part in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
It certainly is. And I'm happy to see you say women, because sometimes we're kind of forgotten. So,
well, and I guess we are getting on to topics that we were going to discuss on the second half, and I guess we ought to maybe mingle those topics. One of the issues that we found was that less than 5% of the programs that are for veterans are specifically designed for female veterans. We are in partnership with the Victory Knoll Sisters down in Huntington. They have a retreat center, and we started maybe 5 years ago offering quarterly women veterans retreats. And those quarterly retreats begin on a Friday afternoon with a barbecue and get-together, and they go through Sunday with typical wellness activities, ways for our veterans to explore ways to channel their energies, ways to look at issues they might be having, and particularly within the spiritual realm, how to connect with who they deem as their spiritual head.
Yeah. Does PTSD affect women any differently than it does men?
I think you have a greater percentage of women that are diagnosed with PTSD, but I think there's a great amount of evidence to show that many of these women were also abused prior to their military service. Every type of stressor that we've ever had from the moment you were born, you can imagine what kind of stress that put on you. We retain. Now we can't recall the memory of have been giving birth, but we all have a point. And we all have a point that once it's passed, we are very prone to PTSD. In these two wars, as in other wars, but not as much, we have certainly used female veterans, female troops in indirect combat. Mm-hmm. And we can quibble, such as we do, to keep in accordance with congressional mandates. But at the end of the day, when we have females serving with special operations and special forces troops on a regular basis, and we say, well, we're not allowed to assign them to those units, we attach them. And I think that little word game has hurt female veterans in getting the care that they need. As far as the PTSD, I don't think the causational factors of combat, certainly being shot at doesn't cause PTSD. Those aspects of military service affect equally men and women, but because women have a greater incidence of being abused prior to their military service, I think we see a higher percentage of them. However, as we talk about abuse, I look at the sexual abuse in the reports and surveys that have come out, and the most recent one, which shows another increase in reports, the official reports being made. But it may surprise a lot of viewers to know that the majority of these complaints come from male veterans. Mm. And male veterans are particularly, their masculinity is challenged. Yeah. It has a different impact on males than it does females, and it makes talking to civilians, particularly civilian males, very uncomfortable. Yeah. It's hard to imagine, particularly if they're in the Marines or in the Army. And yet I've had male victims that we've worked with. It's a very difficult topic, and I get very concerned about the message the Department of Defense gives when they say, well, we see this report, this 8% rise of sexual assault reports as proof that we are reducing sexual assaults in the military. We can spin it any way we want. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. One is too many, and we do have a number of increases that are negative, and they are a direct consequence of some of the things that we do in the military. And also, I think with the social experimentation being pushed upon the military to make it do some unreasonable things and allow for some unreasonable things, has caused the expectation to rise.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even think about that.
There are close to 11,000 reports of in this past year where men have been raped or sexually assaulted by their fellow soldiers.
Yeah. What? Go ahead, Darwin.
You were involved in some wonderful work, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that could take advantage of it. So I'm glad you're here today to spread the word.
Yeah. I am
so
too.
Thank you for coming in.
I am too. It's a blessing to be here, to have this opportunity.
Yeah. You still get people from World War II?
Yes, and I appreciate you bringing that up. You know, some of our best known service agencies, secular service agencies that you see advertised all over, have restrictions. And one of the restrictions, one of the most popular agencies or nonprofits, is a restriction that the care that they are going to give is going to be limited to troops that have served in Iraq or Afghanistan. And also the caveat that they have to meet the VA criteria of what a veteran is, specifically the discharge status. We serve veterans, again, regardless of that discharge status. And so I think it's very important that viewers know that we are there for their veteran and their family members, them, if they've served in any capacity. We're there for them, and all of our services, again, are free.
Yeah.
How many people are on your staff?
We have one full-time employee, and we have one part-time employee that typically works full-time. A lot of the work that needs to be done, administrative work, we have a wonderful core of volunteers. And if it weren't for our volunteers, and I think every nonprofit can appreciate this,
That's what it takes.
that's what it takes. Because we take no government funding. We won't accept it. We will not have vicarious funding or support from the government. We believe there needs to be a clearly defined distinction between the church and the state. And that way we don't get entangled with some regulations and policies that may contradict what we as Christians believe. And we are a Christian ministry. We have a Lutheran identity, but we serve anyone within that veteran or contractor or family member status. I'm not concerned if they're a Methodist. We're not trying to make Lutherans out of anybody. If their spiritual or their denominational beliefs aren't Lutheran, we're not there to convert them.
Yeah.
We're there through our actions. If they have no beliefs or believe they have no beliefs, we're there to serve them. And we're there to serve them without charging them. And our hope is that the services we provide for them, that eventually they will see that this is our way of sharing Christ's love without caveat to them, to show them the forgiveness, show them that there is hope, that there isn't anything that they have done that can't be forgiven.
Sure.
How do you meet your expenses?
We meet our expenses creatively. Donations, memberships, and a little bit later I can show you one of our major fundraiser, which is going on right now, is our Adopt a Christmas Tree ornament, where we have a goal of having 450 ornaments this year grace our Christmas tree. And our Christmas tree was donated by the St. Joe Christmas Tree Farm folks, beautiful Fraser fir. The people don't receive the ornament, and there's not a specific cost for an ornament. It's all by donation, but every donation we receive from 1 November through the end of January, an ornament made by a veteran, their family member, or a contractor is placed on that tree with their name or the name of someone they want to honor.
Yeah. Leslie, we're out of time already. I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank
It's
you.
good to
Thank
see
you.
you again.
Good to see you
Yeah,
again.
I hope I see you more.
Absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed the show. I certainly learned a lot. So anyone needs to speak with Leslie, call that number, and she'll get in touch with you. Remember, freedom is not free, so if you see a veteran or someone in uniform, just walk up to them, shake their hand, say thank you for your service. Thank you, and good night.